If the only thing different about your email is their first name, you have a problem.
You're not special. We're hardwired to think, so what, who cares, what's in it for me?
I essentially paid for Kevin Malone to record a video saying, hey, so-and-so, take the meeting with Aneesh. He's got some amazing ideas for you. Within 24 hours, I got a response. They're like, Aneesh, this is by far the best message I've ever gotten from anybody.
And if you feel like you can't find the information, get a young woman who's in the dating world, because we have FBI level skills before we be going on dates.
And the biggest issue I see is that a lot of enterprise sellers have never bought before, so they don't understand the buyer's journey. People connect on problems, not benefits.
Okay, today's guest has closed over $50 million in sales for brands like Coca-Cola and Pinterest, closing some of the biggest brands in the world. Think Adidas, Cartier, Home Depot, and PetSmart. He is the founder and CEO of the Wishley Group, a LinkedIn influencer agency repping the best sales, marketing, and revenue creators on the platform, helping creators to earn over $2 million with brands like HubSpot, LinkedIn, Notion, and Clay. He is a master of creative ways to get attention and start conversations with whale prospects, both online and offline. Aneesh, welcome to the Masters of Lead Generation podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. That was a great intro, by the way. I got to take you with me everywhere I go. That was awesome. I appreciate that.
Like olden days, like the kings have like the announcement. I'm like, listen up, mothers, like mofos. I'm trying not to swear so much. Listen up, mofos. I've got a real guest for you today. Yeah, I can do that.
No, I love it. I love it.
And so we met in Nashville, and today I want to unpack more of what you were telling me about. And this is from your time in media sales. And you were telling me, or you started telling me the stories, and I was like, shut up, save it for the podcast. I want to hear it live. But these cool and unique ways to get attention of big brands like Adidas from cold outreach. And then in like what I'm calling part 2 of this episode, we're also going to talk about how businesses can leverage LinkedIn influencers to get more leads. So we'll start with some of these stories of creative ways to get attention of cold leads. And I know one of the things we were talking about is how frustrating it is when people do lead gen or outreach. They do it boring. They do it mass. They don't put any thought into it. And then they're like, gee whiz, why isn't my cold outreach working? But you had these really cool and exciting ways to actually get somebody to want to speak to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what the first thing people need to understand is that it's not about you as in like your product, your benefits. And when I see these cold emails, and I see the way people prospect, especially in written form, it's extremely like people's product focused and benefit focused. And honestly, if you're going after a whale, a tier 1 enterprise, Fortune 1000 person, and they're at least a director level and up, you have to imagine their inbox is slammed with just stuff they got to get done, their vendors, and then you have everyone else is trying to sell to them. So if you're not finding ways to pattern interrupt or get out of this norm of check out my time-saving tool, whatever, you're going to be in trouble. So some of the creative things that I've done in the past is I really did some research to figure out who is the person behind the professional. And that's a big thing to think about. We have so many social signals out there to really think about when it comes to what people like and enjoy. Like even you and I in Nashville, we didn't hit it off because of what we do for a living. We just vibed as people first, right? Like I think we had a whiskey joke or something to get this going. Like that's how we met. Can you imagine I came to you in Nashville and just shook your hand and said, hi, I have a LinkedIn influencer agency and this is what we do and we can help you. Oh God, it's so off-putting. But that's what we sound like on LinkedIn, in social platforms, on our cold emails. So some of the things I've done in the past, I was going after a tier 1 retailer and I found out that they were a big fan of The Office. They put a post out on LinkedIn with a Office meme, and they just referred to how much they love the show. That was it. That's all I needed to know. This person likes The Office. So now there's a website called cameo.com, and if you're not familiar, it has a whole bunch of actors, athletes, comedians. You can actually pay these people to record any video you want for a certain amount of money. So I go onto cameo.com and I search The Office, and there they had the guy who plays Kevin Malone, Brian something, the big accountant dude. And I essentially paid for Kevin Malone to record a video saying, hey, so-and-so, take the meeting with Aneesh. He's got some amazing ideas for you. And he said it in the Kevin Malone voice from The Office. And then I emailed that video and sent it over LinkedIn with the subject line, Kevin Malone has a message for you, insert first name. And within 24 hours, I got a response from this person because they're like, Aneesh, this is by far the best message I've ever gotten from anybody. You truly understand me and what I'm trying to do. Let's have a chat, right? And I've got tons of stories like that where we got creative to pattern interrupt to land the meeting. And it cost me $400. That's it, to land a director level meeting with a tier 1 retailer.
Yeah, and if you think of what would be a CPL trying to do that on ads or trying to do that, like, and you can't even get that granular, which is, because I'm from like the direct response world, right? So direct response was like outreach, like how to get people's attention in the letterbox, and then it came into email and now into ads. And I loved what you said. It's like the person behind the professional, like who is it and what do they want? Because your marketing existing context, right? Like as you're saying, like your marketing existing context. So if you're just sending an email saying, hey, I have an agency, come and buy something from me, it's like that gets lost in the noise. It's boring and it's easy to ignore. So I imagine then, because this is kind of how like any cold outreach starts, you would start with a list, right? Like
Correct,
that would be like the first step. Step one is make list.
If I have a task or like I've been designated a territory, then you start off which companies you want to go after, which it's called ICP, who's your ideal customer profile. And then from there, that's when the research starts. But most sales founders, people who are responsible to bring in revenue, hate the research part. And that's where the good are excellent. If you are the type to research and do that prep work ahead of time, you pick up on those social signals like so-and-so loves The Office. That's a social signal that I learned by doing research on the person. I didn't just send a mass email in a sequencing tool to 50 people who are all the same, right? If the only thing different about your email is their first name, you have a problem.
That is a big problem. And then there's like, obviously, like you can do personalization in cold email, but this is next level. And the problem is whenever I talk to people, because we've done a lot of cold email and we do them smaller batch, hyper personalized, but not like the next thing I want to do is this. So like building like a Dream 50, Dream 100 list and then giving it to the sales team, being like, okay, listen to this episode with Aneesh and go and get shit done, basically.
Exactly. And
so it's
to
like,
your point, you can't do this with everybody. It has to be your dream. Has to be your top tier folks, 100%.
Yes. And so I guess I would call this like whale hunting, right? Like it's like, okay, you want to go out and you want to get these big clients. So because when you were talking about this, I was like, okay, how can I like take this and turn it into a system, and then I want to deploy it this year for PX. So step one would be to identify the whale prospects and build a list of like 50 or 100, and then how many would you give to each sales rep?
Yeah, I have like a top 100 list at all times. And your top 100 list is like it's spread across multiple accounts. Now, I don't do more than 3 or 4 people in one account, because the last thing you want to do is send a similar type of thing where people talk internally, right? If I sent 4 Cameo videos separately to 4 different people at that retailer, it might actually come across weird to some people. It's like, this guy's a lunatic. But because I was just doing it one-off, it's a little bit different. I max out at 3 contacts per whale. And then I have my top 100 from there. So you could have anywhere from 30 to 100 in that list that you're actively going after with high intense research.
And then we have the list. And then what would be like your cadence? Would you go through that list every day? How much time were you spending on it? And what was your budget? Did your company cover that? Like, did you have to pay for the Cameo? Was there a budget for like, hey, you've got these resources, go and do some weird shit, Aneesh? Like, how did it go?
I love this question. Okay, so the reality is I've done this my whole career, right? Creative prospecting. Sometimes I was given a budget to wine and dine or engage with net new folks. And sometimes you just don't, but you have a job to get done. Like if you're an enterprise sales rep, you should be making enough money I was thinking, how do I get a win on the board? Some people say it's not fair, but I'm like, hey, if you're getting paid $250,000 to sell something, you can fork up $400 for the meeting that brings in the big logo that establishes you at that company forever, right? Like that's a mindset thing. It's up to you. But I've been in both scenarios where some companies did back it Other companies, not so much because you needed us to be scrappier. If you do have a business case to be made though, like I've always been able to like pay out of pocket for like a couple $100 to try something. Maybe max I've ever spent on something was $750. But then it became the return on that investment. Like I showed finance, here's what I could do if I had more money from you, I could do this at scale.
Hmm.
And
That's a
then
good point.
that unlocked the treasure chest for me. So either way, you got to be scrappy to make that happen.
And what did you send out for the 750?
Yeah. So the 750 was like a series of like customized name-plated type of things. So for example, it was essentially, let's say I was selling to a company that sells a specific type of good. I went back to find out what their first SKU ever was that took off, and I got the CEO's name plated on like a commemorative SKU that I got framed, and I sent it over. I said, "Hey, this is the end of one chapter. As you expand into other SKUs, looking forward to being part of the next chapter with you." I sent a thoughtful note with this commemorative SKU of this product that this company sold, and I had their name plated, and I did it for them, their co-founders, the whole executive team that started it, and till date, it's something that we're friends about. People giving me messages from that company that no matter where they go, where they leave to, I now have that relationship wherever they go. But that took a little bit extra dollars because it was like custom nameplate, nice gold, whatever. That part was a little bit pricier, but it worked.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? It works. And so people spend all this time and money and resources and energy into these big blast campaigns to like just, not even big whales, more like shrimp and salmon. Like that's what they're fishing for, right? And imagine if you had somebody like you doing this full time, because I imagine, is this what you were doing? It's like generating your own appointments. And then I imagine the sales process was maybe a bit more lengthier because probably longer lead to sales time. Or did you find that by doing this outreach, it sped things up? Like once you started getting the meetings, what was the outcome?
Yeah, usually the hardest part's landing the meeting with a big, big client. And I'm happy to go into what happens post. Like I've always been a full cycle sales rep. Like sometimes I'd have an SDR who is feeding me leads, but my biggest clients came from me, start to finish. So another example of creative prospecting, where I was trying to get after this giant construction company CEO, multi-billion-dollar Fortune 1000. And it's almost impossible to get in, they don't even look at their email sometimes. Like you're automatically put into spam half the time. So I found out again through this time I found out through a podcast that this person's a huge Travis Kelce, Kansas City fan. Bad timing for this because the Super Bowl they just lost the Super Bowl. So sorry for all the KC fans who are listening to this. But there is, as everyone knows, Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift. And there's this meme that was so popular last year where Travis Kelce was on stage with Taylor Swift, and they're looking at each other. There's a very beautiful, there's a very cute look at each other, very romantic. You could see the love in their eyes type of thing, right? So I got that printed out, 4x6, old school. When you get those pictures in the frame, it's a 4x6. I got one of those printed out, and I flipped it, and on the back I wrote, "This could be us if you responded to me." Right? And I sent it to the person. I know we have their office. You can pull anyone's office address anywhere. And I sent it over to them. And that was another example of I got a response within 24 hours. I sent an email that same day for when I knew the package was delivered. Like 1 hour later, I sent the email. And this guy was like, "Dude, one of the best, again, outreach I've ever gotten. Ha ha ha. What do you want to talk about?" Right? So to answer your question in a very long format, when you speed up the response with a tier 1 player, that does accelerate the sales cycle because you got the meeting so quick, right? And then their expectation of you on that call is different than any other salesperson. For whatever reason, when you do something that personalized, they're coming in and people are in that call. Like, "Are you the guy that sent the Travis Kelce picture? Are you the guy that sent the Kevin Malone video?" And their expectation on that call is already less guarded. They're a lot more open to what you want to teach them because they saw how badly you earned that meeting. And then now we're talking about there's some psychology here, behavioral psychology that kicks in. This law of reciprocity kicks in, but it's It's a lot easier to have those calls with a tier one complex person because of what you did to get that meeting.
Mm-hmm. And they don't see you as generic sales bro with commission breath trying to close them. Now you're like more like you've like taken your seat and moved it across next to them and like, haha, look at this funny picture that I made of us. Like it totally shifts the relationship. And as you said, like, let's start to talk about, well, what happens next? Like you get the meeting and then how is it different to when you do a cold email or you get them on an ad or some other random way, right? Like what happens next?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've seen reps put all this effort into personalization and giving someone this incredible buying experience. And then when it comes time to talk about their demo, their product, their good, their opening discovery, it's the same generic slide deck they've used for every presentation they've ever done. The sale does not end when you land the meeting. Like it's so important to remember that if you're going to go and put in this kind of effort to get someone's attention who's a C-suite at a giant company, you damn well you better hope that your deck or your presentation materials is just as personalized, if not more, to the company. So this is where you need to have the business acumen. I have my own method I call the PPNL method. I'll share it with your listeners today, but it's the problem linked to PNL. It's most reps talk about the benefits of their offering. We can save you this much time if you use our technology. We can get you this many more customers if you use our lead gen services, whatever it is. But if you're not talking to the problem that decision maker is responsible for in their PNL, and you cannot intelligently speak to the levers behind their PNL, you're done. So I came in as that guy who kicked down the door. They're like, who's this guy? And then I stayed there because I gave them business consultation advice. I barely sold my product in the first meeting. I just showed them I know I earned the right with like a funny picture to be in this room, but now my brain will keep me here at this table. And that's the key.
And it would kind of feel like clickbait, right? Or like being catfished. Like you do this big crazy thing and this person's like, wow, we're gonna have this amazing, great creative mind coming in. And then if you rock up and you're like, hi, like, and you start going through this generic demo, there would be such a mismatch in the persona that you've just built and then what you bring there. And as you said, the sale doesn't end when you get the meeting. That's just game day.
We're warming up. Like
yeah,
that. It's like, what's the point of you get the meeting with the VP of whoever at Walmart, and you go in and your opening slide is, well, we started our business in 2001, and you've already lost them. So I think there's a lot of sales reps don't know how to run discovery properly. They don't know how to connect the dots. And when I say that, it's like, hey, I picked up on a few things that you said were important to your business. So I'm going to skip slide 6 to 10 because they're nonsense. Slide 11 gives you what you want. Right? And that's the piece that a lot of people are like, well, I have to go through all the slides because product team told me to. It's hilarious. So that's where people fall apart a lot.
Yeah, the amount of times. So my background is in sales, not as beautiful and elaborate as yours, but the amount of times then I've been on sales calls and I do some of the sales for our company, but you just sit there and they just go through this generic deck, and that's not even from outreach. Like I've come to them and I'm like, okay, I'm looking for this thing, like let's get going. And the problem that most people are missing is that with them, what's in it for me? Like they don't spend any time to properly diagnose before they prescribe, right? It's like, cool, now I've got you. You want to buy something? Let's just hurry up. And it's this I find it's like this very first order thinking. And unlike what you're saying, it's like this relationship building. Like, there's a process. You've got to understand them, build the relationship, and then they'll close. Don't try and you get like in sales, you can freak out. I've got to hit my quota. I got to speed this thing up. But you've got to have a bit of a longer term view, right?
Yeah. And the biggest issue I see is that a lot of enterprise sellers have never bought before. So they don't understand the buyer's journey. Like they are so in enterprise sellers have such infrequent meetings because they're so difficult to get. Like I'm talking tier 1 whales. If that's your full-time job, you're only getting so many every so often. You have to understand that the buyers are going through these vendor meetings 10 times a day, if not a week. So they are so much more sophisticated with how they buy, the questions they ask, the expectations they have. It's just like anything you do in life, right? The more reps you get, the better you get at it. They have way more reps at this incident or this whole situation than you do. So if you're not coming like this is a daily thing, like you get excited, like oh my god, she wants to buy something. And then you get thirsty. You've actually lost, right?
Yeah.
You've lost the game already because you're coming across as desperate. The commission breath you mentioned is very, very evident. And then that just comes across inexperience.
And with my sales team, what I realized was exactly that. They've never been sold to, like they're selling these people, but they don't understand you're not the only one. You're not the only girl in The Bachelorette this year, right? It's like, or The Bachelor, it's like there's a lot of girls like pitching props. So what I do now is I'll send my sales calls and my props that I get from other agencies. Like if I'm trying to find a podcast agency or a content agency or any other pitches that I get, and I send it to them so that they can see, because I'm like who they're targeting, right? Like a 7-8 figure business owner. It's like, just so you know, this is like what you're up against. Some of it's really awful. Very rarely it's really good. And I'm like, go and dissect this and tell me what's wrong with it. But it just gives them a bit more context to how they exist. Because when you're in sales, you can kind of feel like you're the center of the universe, right? And you forget you're not just competing against direct competitors. It's like everything else for their attention, like whatever's going on with their spouse, their kids, what's going on the news, what's going on in the company. Like they got to fire someone that day. You're competing against all of this. Yeah. So Aneesh, before we wrap up this section, is there any other cool stories? Because I want to just milk that for all it's worth, of course. And number 2, is there anything that I didn't ask you about creative prospecting that you think is really important for people to understand?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is remind your teams, have it written down. If you have a daily sales kickoff, weekly sales kickoff, just mindset wise, tell your teams to earn the right. A lot of the times we send stuff out and it's like, well, I didn't get a response. It's like, what did you do that's so special to get someone's attention, especially if they're a whale, Fortune 1000, giant ass company that gets hundreds of these an hour. I'm not even joking. The number is massive, right? What have you done to like earn the right or get their attention? In the examples I shared, I sent something that was meaningful to the person. Now, the question I get a lot is, Aneesh, what if I can't find a social signal? I'd really push back on that. We live in, an internet age, and maybe the director of marketing is not online or they're very closed off, like everything's blocked. But I guarantee you the CMO is not. So there's two things people care about as buyers. Themselves, I like the office. Great. Or what my boss is doing. I can almost guarantee you that if it's an enterprise level company, you take the CMO or CEO, CRO, whoever, whatever department you're going after, and you hit their name plus Google, their name plus podcast, their name plus whatever. You're going to get some tidbit or information that they've shared about them or their company. And that is enough of a social signal to personalize something to get someone's attention. Because now you're going to say, hey, your boss said this. That will get my attention. One of the best LinkedIn prospecting things I ever did with no money, I screen shared someone's boss's LinkedIn profile saying, look at what they just posted. Here's what I want to talk about. And that got me meetings.
I love that. You do have to earn the right. And you're not special. Like, no one wants to talk to you. All we're thinking, we're hardwired to think, so what, who cares, what's in it for me? And if you can't cut through that noise and answer that very quickly, and if you feel like you can't find the information, get a young woman who's in the dating world, because we have FTI level skills before we be going on dates. Like, you go and find a young, 100%. Hungry woman, and she will tell you the time that man was born. She will tell you, like, his ex-girl, like, you will know everything about, or like, who that is. So there you go, problem solved. Now, last question on this. Was there ever a time that you sent something, right, and you're like, this slam dunk, but it backfired or you got no response? Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah. No responses happen a lot. Like, I know I shared my wins, but like my batting average is high on responses and closing deals and all that. But we all have our rejection. It just, I'm like, I can go to sleep at night knowing I put, out of all the salespeople reaching out to so-and-so, I did the best job today for sure. Right now, I have certain rules of things you don't personalize against. Like if I know you have like a family or daughters or anything like that, or, daughters, son, children, I will never make mention to someone's family. I never make someone, to someone's political affiliations. Like even if I saw somebody wearing like Make America Great Again hat, like I'm not going to send a Trump related thing to them. You just never know. Right. So I don't touch family. I don't touch politics. I just keep it to humor, wit, and wittiness that's like above board. Like The Office is fine. Me sending a box of donuts that have a clever message, fine. Me sending a message, a picture of your favorite football player, fine. But I will never cross that line. So I haven't gotten too much backlash because I keep it appropriate up to that like funny, and I don't talk about those things like family and religion and politics.
I think that's smart, of course.
Just trying. But some people need to hear. Some of you need to hear this message. Like, don't do it.
Yeah. Common sense is not common. That's the good thing about it. Okay, let's switch gears because now what I want to pick your brain about is more of what you're doing at the Wishlink Group, which is you can give the elevator pitch in a second because I'm about to butcher it, but you help creators and you pair them up with really big brands and you've helped them to earn over $2 million as creators, which is a lot of cash money. But we had a lot of conversations about this, about the power of LinkedIn and how big brands are sleeping on it. So can you give just a bit of a quick elevator pitch about what you do and what you see the opportunity is on LinkedIn for brands to engage in something like this?
I appreciate that. So with the Wishley Group, our big thing is to take, right now we have sales, marketing, rev ops, and let's call it productivity creators who have all amassed their popularity because they gave advice on how to sell better, how to become a better marketer, how to create better landing pages, like whatever it is. People took their advice, took it back to their careers and realized, oh my God, that's such a great tip. I'm going to follow this person. I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to respect them. And now what's happened is on LinkedIn, you have all these change agents, these influencers who, when they say, I like using Slack for comms, I like using ClickUp for project management, I like using Gong to record my sales calls, whatever. This is where you start seeing credibility and sales pipeline accelerate because they have hundreds of thousands of followers of people who look up to them for the technical vocation. And that's where we've sort of come in to be like, the big void for the longest time was creators didn't know how to create media kits and bundle this up and actually monetize it. So now we're the agents for 25 B2B creators. We grew from like 6 in August to 25 in December. I've got 20 on the wait list. We're working with 40, 50 brands B2B, and we have a 90% renewal rate on all the brands that have pilot with us. So we know the playbook works because all these brands have renewed and they continuously start seeing more pipeline coming in because of what creators are doing. What's missing right now from LinkedIn are the D2C brands. I have no problem with B2B brands like the conversation folks, the CRM folks, HubSpot, Salesforce, LinkedIn, all of them. We're talking to everybody. I'm shocked that United Airlines is not here talking to the salespeople who travel with a business account. How are you not here? Where is Bonvoy and the loyalty program saying, hey, when you do your sales meetings and you're off the road away from your families half the year, you should probably be with our loyalty program, not Hilton. Where's Chewy and PetSmart, where I can't tell you the number of Slack channels I've been a part of working at Pinterest and Flip and all these companies where there's dogs of Pinterest, dogs of Google, dogs of Facebook Slack channels. These are all work-related things, but these brands aren't here. They're on Instagram and Facebook. So that's the next chasm where we're looking to close, is getting those D2C brands to realize the person behind the professional on LinkedIn. And that piece is missing right now.
And one of the ones that we spoke about is I want to get a clothing brand to like do my YouTube and do my LinkedIn. That's like a huge opportunity, right? So
huge.
For me, lots of women, it's like, this is what I wear. This is like my comfortable, look good, feel good kind of vibe. Yeah. And it's the same thing, similar to what we were saying. There's opportunities for brands like Lululemon for activewear with sales reps. Like, this is what I wear when I'm going around. So why do you think, or what do you think is What do you think is like the blocker stopping maybe B2C and maybe even some more like mid-market B2B brands from realizing this creative way of leveraging LinkedIn and building brand and making sales?
I think it's an education thing. I think a lot of people think LinkedIn is still a networking or a job hunting platform. And that's true maybe 7 years ago. Over the last 5, 6 years, and COVID really accelerated this, professionals, especially in go-to-market functions like sales and marketing, struggled when the pandemic hit because they were the first departments to get either like shut down or put on hibernation mode because nobody was buying things when the pandemic hit. So what ended up happening is you have all these go-to-market professionals who started coming together to just learn from each other, like, how are you navigating this crisis? And it was happening before COVID too, but I truly believe that was the accelerant on this fire. And now it's gotten to a point where it's not just the job hunters who don't have any money on this platform. You have the keeners of the group, the front of the class people who say, pick me, boss, I'll take that on. And they're good at it. These are also the top earners at the company. They're the ones who make 6 figures. They're the ones who not only make B2B buying decisions, which is why all B2B companies should be leveraging LinkedIn creators in one way, shape, or form. But this is also why direct-to-consumer brands need to come here and realize, hey, you know, so-and-so that's following everybody for fashion or following this person for the watch they wear, or people are trying to see where to spend their commission check as a sales rep. What car are they driving? All those things. These are the questions that are coming up now. What's your routine? What books do you read? What's your makeup routine? I'm sure you've gotten that question before. So I wouldn't even know, but I'm sure people have asked you, right? Where'd you get that outfit? Oh, you look so good. How do you feel confident in what you do? This is all a huge opportunity for direct consumer brands. And I think this is the year where it's going to happen.
And besides that opportunity with D2C, the big brands that we were talking about, like HubSpot and Clay, like should more mid-market 7, 8 figures, like should we be thinking about how can I use LinkedIn and engage these people? Like, do you see an opportunity, or maybe like tell me about some other brands or industries that you think could really benefit from LinkedIn?
Yeah, the vast majority of the companies I work with are not the HubSpots and the LinkedIns of the world. They actually don't have that kind of, they didn't raise, they maybe just a, Series A, Series B, right? Like they just started off, they barely got product market fit. But where we see them thrive is they're building relationships with these creators now, right? Try building a relationship with like the top Instagram creator right now, being next to impossible. That whole channel is saturated. Because LinkedIn is relatively new to the whole creator space and creator economy, if you're coming in now to build those relationships with the top talent, they're very much up for grabs because of how new it is. And just so you know, the ego that comes with having 7 million followers on Instagram, you have people who have maybe 200,000 followers on LinkedIn who have the same buying power, who have access to buyers that are worth more than the couple million followers on Instagram, but no ego. Best part is they're also professionals. So they're going to live up to the commitment. They understand the business behind the transaction. They're not just there to be like, you bought 3 posts and a story reel for me from Instagram, and that's all you're going to get. I don't even know what you do for a living. Thanks. I've heard this about creators on other platforms, but on LinkedIn, especially the sales, marketing, and revenue folks, they are all corporate people. They know what the business objective is, and they're able to give you advice on how to really connect with their audiences too. So that's been super exciting to actually deal with like polished business creators who know what they're doing.
And so how does it look on LinkedIn? I've seen them on like a TikTok or an Instagram where it might be like hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. Sometimes it can be a bit overt and a bit cringe. But if my business engaged creators, how would you structure that partnership for me? Mm-hmm. What would be the tangible deliverables? What would be the impact on my brand? And how much do you think a business would pay?
Yeah. So we typically structure the deals to be multi-channel, multi-month at the minimum. So we don't do anything less than a 3-month engagement with any brands that want to work with that. Most of our creators, they're not micro. They have, larger 100,000 plus followings, 200, 300,000 followers. Most of them are LinkedIn top voices. They have the blue badge edified by LinkedIn editorial teams. So we're dealing with like the upper echelon with our agency. And there we would do monthly LinkedIn posts, monthly newsletters, quarterly webinars. We're building co-authored content, ebooks, guides with our creators. I've got some creators for longer term deals that are getting on the phone with prospective customers and saying, hey, here's why we think you should use X product, X software. So we go full funnel because we know that that's what brands at the end of the day, they need a return on ad spend. But we want to make sure we've done it over this proper 3-month storytelling versus this one hit, one post. We paid for 1 or 2 posts. Thank you very much. That's why we tap into their podcasts, their newsletters, all the channels available to tell that story.
And it's more of an authentic partnership, not a, like I'd say traditional, which is funny to say, but a traditional UGC where a D2C brand would hit up an influencer. And as you said, there's big egos there. So if anyone's worked in that space, they know the influence. I was talking to someone, so I have a friend that runs a jewelry brand and she was doing influencer marketing. And so one of these influencers are like, yep, 10K for a post. 10K for a post and I'll do like 2 stories. And it's like, what? In what world? I'm not going to see a return on that. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Because they do 50 of them in a month.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So it's super transactional. My creators only do 3 or 4 deals at a time. They're all multi-month. So their audiences are only seeing 3 or 4 brands. And these are brands that we vetted. They've done demos. We've done strategy alignment calls before even signing the papers to make sure the creator has story arcs that make sense, pre-vetted. It has to be organic to what they normally talk about. We've made 2 million for creators. We've probably turned down 4. The amount of people we've said no to for certain creators is insane, but it's all to protect exactly what you just said. The day you become a walking billboard or tabloid, you've lost it for everybody, the brand, the audience, and everybody. That's why our creators only 3 or 4 strategic partnerships at any time. And
do you get that feedback loop from the businesses and the companies you work with for what sort of impact for like, and maybe, I don't know if you can share like a price range of what someone can expect for LinkedIn influencers, but what are they spending and what are some examples of the impact that is happening for their business?
Yeah, well, we have a 90% renewal rate with all the brands that pilot with us, which means they would have had to have come into working with us for 3 months with at least 1 creator across all those channels I told you about. And the fact that 90% of those brands have renewed, there's no way I could trick them all. I promise you that. So the things that we've seen work really well, like the co-authored content, when we make like co-branded lead magnets. One of our brands saw 1,000 downloads come in for this meeting mastery guide in just 3 days, right? Another partner of ours, Clay, they've told us that one of our creators brought in, just from a phone call referral, one of their biggest enterprise SaaS deals in the history of the company, right? These things have come in to bring in so much pipeline. And this doesn't even include the stuff that we can't track. Like, we can't track if I listened to so-and-so's podcast and then went onto someone's website and signed up for a demo. Like, there's no way for us to track those things. This is just untrackable things of like where we know somebody saw something and there's a direct link or an introduction. They're still seeing benefits from stuff that they can track, let alone the stuff they can't track. So that's where we've seen that there's something special here about the LinkedIn space, and very few brands relative to the number of brands out there are doing something about it.
And if we think about, okay, this is just a different medium of what works, which is tapping into somebody else's audience that already trusts them, leveraging their clout, leveraging the relationships they've already built, right? Because other examples of this, like when we started our business, I didn't start my own podcast, which I'm doing now because now's the time, but I went on everyone else's podcasts and that like brought us in clients and leads. Or if you go to events, like it's like when you do this, you're tapping into an asset, a resource that somebody's already spent all of this time and money and energy to create, and you're getting access to their trusted audience. So what, like in terms of investment, because this is something that someone should think is like as a channel strategy, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, we are having, usually I think of it as inbound, outbound strategic partnerships.
Yeah.
This is like strategic partnerships to me. And then it's like, okay, well, what sort of budget, what sort of investment would I need to put behind it?
So you're looking at, for a smaller creator, anywhere from a couple grand a month all the way up to like, some of my creators get paid 10, 12 grand a month, right? It just depends on whom you're connecting with and who their audiences are. So typically the more senior the audience or the followers are of the creator, like they're known to speak to just executives, for example, they're going to be worth a lot more because you're getting in front of the C-suite right away. But if you want to do a top up approach and you want to deal with individual contributors to show people like, hey, here's how you use the software, product, service, whatever it is, then you're looking at, closer to that 4 to 7K a month to work with an influencer, to get them to post and talk about you, build custom content, to build video content, to show instead of tell, all those things. So that's where we've seen the price range really hit, is probably between that 4 to 10K, depending on the creator you're going after. And there are cheaper folks, like there are smaller, up to 10, 20,000 follower creators. So we don't really rep those folks, but the micro influencers who on LinkedIn, who they get paid $500 to $1,500 per post. But this is where I challenge you as a brand to make sure you're going in strategically and not just trying to get, a pay for post type of thing with a few folks.
Because you're basically hiring like a full-time, like you can sort of like, how do you think about like a full-time content creator with a channel that's already established? So, if you brought somebody on in-house, they're going to cost 7K, 5K, 7K, 10K more, right? And they don't have an established following. They don't know the LinkedIn game, which can be a bit of a cesspool, as I've talked about on other episodes, like a bit hard, a bit weird on the old LinkedIn channel. And you're buying speed as well. As you said, you can do these lead magnet posts and these are what are going off on LinkedIn right now, where it's like, hey, like comment this and you'll get this. You can do carousels, joint carousels. You can do videos, all of these great things. And so should brands be thinking, okay, how do I measure the ROI of LinkedIn influencers? Or is that the wrong question to be asking when you think about this as a lead generation channel?
Well, the first thing you want to do if you haven't done anything in any channel, this is something you need to know for any channel. Number one, I always ask, and I have like 20, 30 of these conversations a week now, for people who've never done anything on LinkedIn. What are the preconceived notions of your category to the average buyer? Right? People don't often think about that. They think, oh, we've crushed it on Instagram and other channels. Now we're coming to LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry to burst your bubble, but like nobody knows who you are here, right? So what are the preconceived notions if you were coming to me for the first time for your category? Once they tell me they're like, we don't have preconceived, well, we have a bigger problem. Influencer marketing will not solve this for you. But those that are wise enough to answer that question, the next question comes to, okay, how do we dispel those preconceived notions, or which ones are in your favor, which ones are not? And once they tell me those questions, the answers to those questions, I can then marry them to the right creator in my roster. Because I know so-and-so speaks about XYZ, and you just said that. So-and-so speaks against 1, 2, 3, and you just said that. So now I know which creators to marry you up with in your own words, right? And the moment that happens, they're like, okay, there's an organic story arc here that makes a lot of sense. And that's where we see, okay, I'm like, there's actually ways for us to help you. Otherwise, brands are just going to get lost. They're just going to do the same spray, pray mentality. We paid for a post. We got all these awareness impressions, but it will not go to pipeline. LinkedIn has the technology now that where we can track pipeline, because we can do a couple things. The lead magnets I told you, we capture emails. Those emails can turn into pipeline. That's a pretty easy way to see where they went. Webinars, same thing. We can get people's emails when they register for webinars. But here's the best part. We can take all your ICP list, your ABM list, anyone you're going after, and marry them to the first degree connections of our creator. And we invite those people directly to the webinar. That has been a huge play. And then the other one is we can take all the people that like, comment, engage on your posts, your social promoted posts, and I can enrich that data to tell you who they are, what companies they work for, what their titles are. So a mixture of all three of those things allow us to show you the amount of pipeline that we generated 1 month, 2 months, 3 months after an engagement. And we've done that for a lot of our brands.
Very cool. And so the answer is don't be looking at this short-sighted. And there's a lot of common themes in this to what we were just talking about in that part one, right? Like don't be short-sighted, look for relationships, figure out how you can stand out and get attention and actually start conversations, which is kind of how you need to win the game on LinkedIn. And so would you say then, because some people might think influencer marketing is brand awareness, but really you're like, no, there's defined leads, pipeline, creative ways. And the way that I think about lead gen is there's harvesting for now and there's planting seeds for later. Most businesses are so focused on harvesting for now, they never plant any seeds for the future, right? And so they're always looking around, they're like, we keep pulling out everything out of the ground. And I'm like, I don't know why I use this farmer analogy, but they're like, oh, we haven't planted anything, right? But this is planting seeds. You're going to scoop up people now, but you're going to be planting a lot of seeds to build pipeline. And nobody ever thinks about that. Like, how do we build pipeline for the future? Our business is going to exist 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, hopefully. Why aren't we planting those seeds for the future?
One of my discovery questions is, how are you future-proofing your business today?
Yep.
Right? It's one of the questions that sparks conversation. And a lot of the times people are like, yeah, well, we're going to do a booth at some weird conference that nobody goes to booths or whatever. I'm like, hey, that's great. How are you educating people that, are just walking by and have no idea and they don't engage with you? Like that booth is one thing, but how are you educating people to be problem aware when the time comes? No answer to those questions. And that's something influencers can do on LinkedIn very well, because they talk about the problems of the industry and the role and the ICP. That is what you want to be connected to as a brand. It's like, I'm now top of mind awareness connected. The day will come that somebody has a problem as a marketer, salesperson, whatever. And now I can connect the dots real quick. They know where to go.
And it's like any marketing. And this is the thing. It's just these core tenets of psychology and persuasion. And nobody studies them enough, because all you're trying to do is persuade, not manipulate unless you've got a bad brand. You're trying to persuade human behavior. And it always comes back to what's in it for me and do you understand me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you actually understand me? And I think that's what I'm hearing here is like, that's what you're tapping into with these LinkedIn influencers. They use the lingo. I understand you. I get you. And then the person who can articulate the problem the best is assumed to have the solution. So when that happens, it's like, oh, you need clay. Like if you're having these problems, I'm using clay, you should use clay. And it's like, oh, you're just like me. Yeah, makes sense. I should also use clay.
Exactly. Because people connect on problems, not benefits. That's what it is. And the influencer is the authority, to your point, on how to solve that problem. And you said something really big, like if anybody here is a reader, check out the book Methods of Persuasion by Nick Kalinda. It talks about all the things that we're talking, all the behavioral psychology to influence, not manipulate. Those are the things that that book has taught me a lot there for sure.
That's awesome. Now, last question, because we've just hyped up LinkedIn influencer marketing and I'm pumped, but this would not be a channel for everyone. So who shouldn't do LinkedIn influencer marketing?
Yeah, I would say there's certain functions still that have not made their way to, like if you're going after like a contractor or you're dealing with more of the trades or you're dealing with folks like that who aren't always on LinkedIn, then this is not the right channel for you. I would say this is a really good place for the white collar buyer, or if you're a direct to consumer, as long as your product fits those that are working corporate jobs, or it's the side hustler, the solopreneur, the digital business owner, like they're all on LinkedIn. But if you're going after the trades, I would say it has been harder. We've had some brands reach out like, hey, they're just not here actively, right? You might get the network effect of, a sibling or something, but you will not be talking to them directly. There's so many other channels you should go for that.
I'd imagine there might also be like a revenue consideration as well, right? Or I'm thinking as a business owner, my recommendation would be to have a channel that's getting you predictable, consistent leads, like paid ads, like cold outbound, whatever it is, where like you've got that nailed, and then you can start testing out channels like this, but only if you have a long-term thinking about it. Not if you're like desperate for cash money now in the bank. This is not the channel. This is like, you're building a very competitive moat around your business when you start to engage in these sorts of things.
Yeah, it does depend on what you're selling and who your ICP is. There might be more ready buyers on LinkedIn, depending on the category you're in. So I wouldn't rule it out entirely if you haven't mastered paid ads or lead gen in different channels. It does depend on what you're selling and whom you're selling to, because the more active the conversations are on dark social communities, which is what LinkedIn is. Dark socials is impossible to track, but those conversations are very much happening. The more relevant you are problem-wise, or what you solve for to that audience, you want to be in the social channels where the conversations are happening for what you sell. So it does depend on the category, and based off of your category and your ICP, that's where I'd recommend where to spend your effort and time.
Awesome. And Aneesh, I appreciate you coming on today. We met in Nashville. I stabbed you the first time that we ever met, and and I'm not even going to explain the story. Everyone can just deal with that. And now our friendship has blossomed, and we're over that. We've had whiskey together. We've seen snow. We've had good nights out. If somebody wants to do creative prospecting to you, where can they stalk you and find you? Where should somebody come and chat?
Yeah, I think if you've listened to the episode, LinkedIn is where I'm at. It's where I live and breathe. I'm on there daily, all day. And if anybody does need help with their own creative prospecting, always feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help.
Amazing. Aneesh, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your brilliance today on the Masters of Lead Generation podcast. Bye.
Thanks for having me.